Can you hear me? Okay. I don't need microphone actually, but I know that they are taking some video and they will need for that. First of all, thank you for inviting me to deliver a keynote speech here. This first time for me being here in Metropolitan University, but I have some friends from the same university, but also from other university from Serbia. So I think that the reason is that there are not many, at least for now, experts in the cybersecurity area, but as I can see here, there are not just familiar faces, but also some new faces. So, and in the future, I know that there will be much more, because the problem that we are facing now in the cyberspace, with the security especially, is becoming greater and greater. So we need a lot of experts, which will actually help to society to secure communication and information. My lecture or presentation today will be about cyberspace as a powerful tool to threaten the national security, and it will be slightly different from the other two presentations that we had. It's great that actually we had a presentation given, or actually it was not presentation, but just some things mentioned from the first assistant minister here, who actually mentioned everything that I wanted to tell during my first slide, which is connected with the new technologies. He already mentioned everything, how the new technology is going forward. And I'm not going to talk about self-driving cars and Wi-Fi and 4Gs, etc. But here, for example, like this, here you can see that I'm showing some soldier who actually has a lot of equipment, but what I'm focusing on is actually the digital equipment that he has on his helmet, on his gun, etc. And actually what this equipment is allowing to this soldier is to show the real situation to his commander, wherever he is, on the battlefield. Actually, the commander can control everything that's happening in the battlefield, even maybe the soldier is, let's say, thousands of kilometers away from him. We are talking now about network-centric warfare or network-enabled capabilities, and everything that happens in the battlefield actually is connected with the new technology. If you don't have this ability, almost for sure you will lose the battle. This picture here is showing actually the smart grid technology, where we are not just consumer actually of the energy, but we are also producers of the energy, which means that we have now two-way communication. So we cannot base our security in the energy sector just on the data diode technology, because it is just one-way communication. Now we have two-way communication. We have a great expert here about artificial intelligence. I will not talk about that. Zlatogor is here. He can talk a lot about artificial intelligence. But I remember when I was during my high school, my professor was always saying, a professor in IT was always saying that computers are stupid, are very stupid. But I cannot say that today this is the case, because with the artificial intelligence, they can even think. And they can even make decisions by themselves with using different kinds of algorithms, etc. So today they are not so stupid. Internet of Things, we already mentioned about the problem, and we know that, as it was mentioned previously, that for a while, actually for 3-4 years, it will rise from 5 billion. I think that now the number of Internet of Things devices are like 5 billion. It will be like 50 or 60 billions up to 2020. And cloud computing, actually, there is no one here, I'm sure, who is not using the cloud. When I'm asking, I know that you already know that you are part of the clouds, but when I'm asking other, which are not like IT, with IT backgrounds, do you use clouds? They're saying, no, I don't use, I don't want clouds, etc. And I'm asking them, do you have email address? Do you have Facebook? Yes, I have. That's part of the cloud, so you're using clouds. You are giving your information somewhere, and you don't know where they are, actually, this information. So we are all part of the clouds. And all we know that All these new technologies actually are vulnerable. And I'm classifying these vulnerabilities in two, actually, ways, like disturbing and the attacks against which are using these vulnerabilities can be like destructive or disturbing. We don't want to experience destructive attacks. We don't want this part. And what is the reason for this attack, for successful attacks? First, technical. And I can say that actually we are good in cybersecurity. We can deal. It's not so easy, but we can deal with this part. Because if something happens wrong with the, let's say, with systems, with computers, with application, we can manage that. If we have good guys who can work for security issues that we are experiencing. But however, it is almost impossible to patch the people's mindset. It is almost impossible, and it will always be a problem. It doesn't matter how many education and training you are actually giving to these people. They will always make the same mistakes. Even after some course that you have for Bitcoins or whatever it is, spams, etc. When you, for a while, like for a week, if you send them spam email to the students, 60% of the students will answer, and actually they will be victims of the spam. So why? Because of the human mindset. You know, we have problem. We cannot be patched. Our mindset cannot be patched. So we will always have problems. About cyber in the worldwide threat assessment, up to 2008, nobody was talking about cybersecurity as some threat to the national security. However, from 2012, it is behind terrorism and proliferation, and then from 2013, it is first on place when we are considering national security. First threat on the national security. These are just some, according to me, most effective cyber threats in the last period, starting from different kind of advanced persistent threats, ransomware. When I was talking about ransomware, I'm using this slide like 3-4 years. And when I was talking like 3 or 4 years ago about ransomware, nobody knows what ransomware is. And I was saying at that time that ransomware would be one of the biggest threats. Now I'm sure that not just here, but even people who doesn't know anything about IT heard about ransomware. This year, for 2017, number of ransomwares for the first half is 2 times bigger than the last year. So I suppose that up to the end it will be 3 or 4 times bigger than it was last year. So it is exponentially growing, and we already heard from previous presentation that Bitcoin is just one of the tools which is used by ransomware. DDoS attack, I know that you always say, but it's not new, it's not something that actually you can mention that as a most effective cyber threat. But the problem here, why I'm mentioning it, actually you can see here, it is layer 7 DDoS attack, which can be actually conducted just by one mobile phone. So you don't need 50 or 100,000 of computers. You just need one mobile phone. And the problem is even bigger because you cannot use this kind of anomaly detection systems which can see differences in the network traffic, and you cannot see any difference in the network traffic because you are attacked just by one mobile phone. Insiders. Bradley Manning and Snowden, and somebody from here will say that they are not insiders, they are whistleblowers, which, okay, we can consider them as whistleblowers, but the problem we solved from Snowden and from Bradley Manning that the problem is great. The problem is on the highest level, actually, which we are experiencing. If somebody from organization actually steal the information and give to someone for some bad things. And compromised counterfeit hardware. In the past, when I was talking about this kind of possibility for attacker to attack our system, it was like, but it's not true, it cannot happen. But you'll see later, actually, I will show you just one example when actually the hardware, the hard disk from the main vendors was part of this kind of attack. And the attack was successful maybe for years because nobody knows when this attack started. Kaspersky just discovered that actually this attack happened, but they don't know when it started. What is the number of malwares per year? I should maybe ask what is the number of new malwares per day, because it is 350,000 new malwares per day. I know that some of them, or maybe most of them, are like modification of some previous known malwares, but however, to deal with this kind of malwares, you will need new patches. So it doesn't matter if it is new malware or modification of previous, you need new patches. You heard, and all these malwares are using vulnerabilities in the system. I'm sure that you already read it about this problem that I'm showing here, which happened like which was explained 2 days ago from some researchers. And it is excellent that researchers discovered this problem with VPA2. They succeed to breach or to break the VPA2, and all were saying that this is impossible to break VPA2. And these are 10 vulnerabilities that were found, and actually, again, I would say that it is great that researchers found this, and I'm sure that patches are already done against this kind of attack. But however, this means that we should expect in the future wireless connection to not to be so secured. So somebody else will find another way to expose or actually to attack our wireless communication. These are some statistics related with number of vulnerabilities per year. It rises from year to year, and here you'll see for 2017, it is like on the first place it is an Android, then a Linux kernel, etc. And on the 10th place, no, it is on the 9th place, we have Windows Server 12. But here, if you look for several years, actually from 2008 up to 2017, you'll see on the 9th place we have Windows, but previous we have like Linux, like Mac operating system. We are saying do not use Windows, use Mac because it is more secure. It's not more secure. You can see from this table here that there are many vulnerabilities which are actually found in the Mac, in Apple, etc. When we are considering vendors, then you'll see that Microsoft, yes, it is a vendor which experiencing, or most of the vulnerabilities are found in Microsoft, but however, we have here Apple, we have here Google, Linux, etc. So all of them are experiencing a different kind of attacks, and actually a lot of vulnerabilities are found within their systems. These are just some of the companies which are hacked in the years behind, and you'll see that all those companies which actually need to take care about our security attack, and actually they're hacked in many cases. NSA, you already heard about, I'm sure that you already heard about Utah data center, which has capabilities or capacity to store like 3 to 12 exabytes of data. And they are saying that they are doing this for public safety. They are doing this because they want to fight against terrorism. And let's say that it is true. I'm not saying that it's not true. Let's say that they are doing this because of the public safety. But the problem is they are also saying at the same time that they are experiencing like 300 million attacks per day. 300 million attacks per day. And some of the attacks are successful. So shadow brokers succeed to steal a lot of tools that Equation Group, which is working for NSA, that are used actually for hacking and attacking systems. And they not just steal these tools, but they put it on internet. They uploaded them on internet, so anyone was able to download these tools and to use for their purposes. Actually, after that, several ransomwares happens which were using these tools. And the bigger problem is that somebody, some insider, can steal a lot of information, as it happened with NSA, and give to somebody else. Let's say that Snowden did this for, I don't know, not to give this information to Russia, but to protect the people in USA. But we don't know what will happen in the future. Maybe somebody will steal this information and will misuse this information. Now we are saying that the data actually is the new oil. Why we are saying this? It was already explained during the presentation that was given by Assistant Minister. He already mentioned that, let's say in 2016, you will see just one IT company here, and it is Microsoft, among all other companies which are from energy sector. But here, 7 are from telecommunication and IT sector, and just 3 among 10 are from, not just, I think 1 or 2 are from energy sector. So that's why the data are the new oil. And just one example how data can be used for making money. I'm sure that you already heard and you already know about what hackers actually did with LinkedIn, like in 2012. And it was announced in 2016. Now, up to 2016, nobody knew about this attack. What they did actually, he did, he stole 167 million of accounts. He hacked 167 million accounts. You can use this page. Have I been pwned? And you'll see if your account was stolen. I know that my account was stolen. I know that Zlatogor's account was stolen, and I know that Igor's account was stolen, for sure. They can check also. But I'm sure that almost all accounts at that time, in 2012, was stolen. And how actually they can earn from this? And we know that they're earning a lot. This guy was so stupid. He is now arrested because he wanted to charm his girlfriend, and he went in Czech Republic for a dinner, and they arrested him. But we all know that he actually have a lot of money. All these cars and Rolex, etc., are his. And what he did, actually, he didn't use the money that we have. He just sold all these accounts that he stole. And so why cyber criminals are buying this? How they can use? Let's say that 10% of these 167 million of accounts are using like Gmail. There are 60.7 million. Let's say that 10% of these guys or girls are like using the same password in LinkedIn and also in Gmail. And it's happened, believe me, that 10 to 15% are using the same. So this will happen then. They'll go in your account, they'll go in your Gmail account, go through all information you have, and from my perspective, I'm never deleting the information I have there. If I open, you'll see that I have a lot of old emails. So they will open, let's say, Amazon account. They will open eBay account. They'll see actually if you have account there, and they'll go there. And somebody will say, but I'm using different kind of different password there. Okay, but there is magic button there which says I forgotten my password, which can be like crack my password, because they are saying I forgot my password, so please send me at my Gmail account. And that's how they're actually getting money. They're getting our accounts in the banks, and they're getting a lot of money. This is another way. We already talked about ransomwares, and here you'll see you're so stupid, you didn't protect your network or system, so you need to pay 0.15 bitcoins, which is maybe not huge amount for someone. But however, the problem here, why they are asking for this amount, because they don't know how much to ask sometimes. Because they don't know if they ask too much, if they will be paid for. But with the new regulation, General Data Protection Regulation, and I'm not saying that it's not good regulation, but with the new regulation, Europe is saying that they will ask anyone who is providing different services to pay 4% of their turnover per year if they are breached. 4%. So let's say that somebody breached some company and with ransomware. What they will say now, according to me, they will say, okay, you have two possibilities. To pay 4% to EU or to pay to me 1% or 2% of your turnover per year. So we can expect that maybe in the future they will misuse this regulation, although it is for our protection. I'm not saying that it is not good regulation. I'm just saying that maybe somebody will misuse. These are just some of the attacks of critical information infrastructure in 2016. It is taken from EU website. And I will not go through them, but they are mainly focused here, starting from attacks on power grid in Ukraine. You know that Russia attacked them for 2 times, December 2015 and December 2016. And also banks and Yahoo is attacked. And here you will see that somebody succeeded to breach more than billion accounts in Yahoo. Billion accounts. So there are many attacks that happen on the critical infrastructure, but the problem, I tried to find some statistics, what's happening in Europe, and I couldn't find, but I found from Industrial Control System CERT in US, and you'll see that it's constantly rising, the number of attacks against the critical information infrastructure. So we are experiencing a lot of actually attacks. And why actually this happened? What are the challenges that people who are obligated to secure industrial control systems are facing? What are the challenges? First, the control system is not designed with security in mind. I participated on one conference in US where actually one of the pioneers, I can say, of SCADA system was delivering a lecture about securing SCADA system. And what he said that when they were working on new SCADA system, they were not thinking at all about security, because they were actually they were working on SCADA system in order to protect leaking of water, etc., to secure people, to secure companies, etc. But they were not thinking at that time about securing systems. So now, because they made a lot of problems, now he said that it's my obligation to secure the system. So now I'm expert in security for SCADA systems. The other problem that is happening here is actually that SCADA systems are using commercial on-the-shelf hardware and software. So, which means that anyone have access to this kind of hardware and software, and anyone have a lot of time to analyze, to see what are the vulnerabilities of these hardwares and softwares. The other problem or challenge is increased interconnection and integration, which means we can experience cascade effects, domino effect on, for example, if energy sector is attacked, then that means that but water sector also will be attacked, and telecommunication sector will also be attacked, etc. The other problem is, I already mentioned with first slide, that we actually have now new two-way systems. When I was talking about smart grid technology. So now we cannot rely on data diode protection. We have two-way communication, which allows to the attacker or consumers, let's say, to touch new touch points and into utilities. So we are increasing number of systems and sizes of code bases. I mentioned about Internet of Things. From 5 billion now, it will be like for 4 years, 50 or 60 billions. A lot of new devices that can be used for attacks. So we are increasing attack surface. This is one of the attacks which happened, DDoS attack, which happened just using Internet of Things devices, when hundreds of thousands cameras were used in order to actually attack some system. These are just some of the passwords which were used to protect this kind of devices, and most of them are default password. This is the, according to me, most interesting motherfucker. Some kind of password, sorry, but it's like that, you know, I didn't put additionally, it is some password which was found. Cyber espionage. These are just few cyber espionage operations that were discovered by different kind of, by Symantec, Kaspersky, etc. But you'll see that mostly they are written on English, Russian, Chinese, Spanish, Arabic language. It doesn't mean that if it is like, for example, Red October, if it is written on, coded actually on Russian, doesn't mean that actually Russia is behind this attack. Why? Because if you look at this map, Russia was also affected, and most of the attack was actually directed to Russia. Why I'm showing here a Red October operation? Because it was like 4 years ago. Because 1/3 of the attacks was against the countries from the Southeast Europe. And nobody from Southeast Europe reported that they were attacked, they were targeted. Kaspersky discovered this. And I mentioned from the very beginning about compromised counterfeit hardware. What we have here actually, a Croatian group who is working for NSA, they actually succeed to put a malware within the hardware through firmware. Actually, they attacked Samsung, Hitachi, Seagate, Western Digital, etc. They actually succeed to change the firmware of these vendors' hard disks. I'm sure that you already heard what's happened in US, that actually the Kaspersky was banned to be used there. And why I'm showing here, it is interesting that actually they are saying that Kaspersky, actually Russia through Kaspersky is using Kaspersky to make some kind of cyber espionage to US. Okay, but let's say that it is true. But they are saying that they were informed from some Israeli, let's say Mossad or whoever, who made cyber espionage to Kaspersky, and they gave this information to some other institution who is also doing cyber espionage, let's say NSA or CIA, and we all know that they are also doing the same. So all are doing the same, and nobody can convince me that it is not happening in the cyberspace. Cyber terrorism, or terrorist use of cyberspace. I don't want to use the term cyber terrorism because up to now we still don't have some attack that we can classify as cyber terrorism, but we know that terrorists are using a lot cyberspace in order to enhance their capabilities. They are using for radicalization, they are using for protection of their data or communication through steganography, cryptography, etc. They are using for data mining, but also they have some cyber attack capabilities. When ISIS attacked, after ISIS attack in Paris, what's happened, actually the Anonymous said that they would destroy ISIS in the cyberspace. But what is interesting, the next day, Anonymous was attacked by ISIS. And somebody will say from here, but they don't have such capabilities. The problem here is that they have money or they have ideology. So some who knows how to target someone to cyberspace, use this money or ideology, based on the ideology, support them. So what is the difference from this kind of supporters, which are working on the cyberspace, and the other kind of supporters, which are using like rifles to support them? According to me, they are also supporting terrorism, and they should be in the same bench of people. Also, they got a lot of informations related to US soldiers, their families, their houses, and what is interesting, actually, they also got some pictures from the offices of the US officers. And they sent this on the Twitter account of Pentagon. They cracked Twitter account on Pentagon, YouTube account of Pentagon. And they said, we have all information for your soldier. We will destroy them, we will shoot their families, etc. And this guy is convinced for 20 years, and he is from Kosovo. Okay, the other information we have is that ISIS is constantly trying to attack critical information infrastructure. And it is true. They are not successful. up to now, but we don't know what will happen in the future. We cannot say for sure that they don't have such capabilities and we don't care about that. We don't know, but maybe someone for money will do this for them. Why they are trying to attack critical information infrastructure? Because at that way, actually, they are attacking national security. They are eroding, actually, confidence in critical services and the governments. The economic impact is great that they are achieving, and they are enhancing, actually, the physical attacks. So we talk now about asymmetric warfare. This is just one case where actually which shows what these guys can do with support of cyberspace. For example, they can use like terrorists which can physically attack police stations, some public places, etc. But additionally, they can attack 112 system. They can attack banks through the cyberspace, and the effect will be much, much greater than if they attack just physically. Here, for us, for Macedonia, you saw that I'm showing here as an example in Macedonia, we will not experience this problem because 112, it doesn't work. So maybe we are safe in I don't know for Serbia, but in Macedonia still it doesn't work. Cyber war. There are some experts who are saying that it will take place. There are some who are saying that it will not take place. However, as Zlatogor also know, in the NATO we actually want to talk about hybrid warfare, not cyber warfare, because for sure we know that countries are using cyberspace as a support for their action, as for example Russia is doing in Ukraine now. For example, if we consider like Estonia, it is maybe just one case of cyber war, when just cyberspace was used to attack a country. But in all other cases, we are facing with new kind of war called hybrid war. I will just tell you, I mentioned about attacks on the energy sector in Estonia, but I will mention this case where actually what they succeed, Russian hackers, they succeed through the Android system, through GPS location. Actually they hacked phones or smartphones of the soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers, and they succeed actually to breach their system, their Android system, and to find their location through the GPS system. And then they use artillery, and they destroyed them. Just, it was supported by cyber attack. If we are talking about cyber war, we need cyber warriors. We already know that most of the countries which has a lot of budgets connected with cyber security, they are investing a lot. They have a lot of people who are dealing with this problem, and cyber weapons. From 2011, Department of Defense developed classified list of cyber weapons. 2011, it was right after Stuxnet. Stuxnet was in 2010, and then they developed a classified list of cyber weapons, and they even are discovering lethal cyber weapons, which can make physical damage. And the problem is that this weapon is much cheaper compared with any other weapon. The other problem is that it's very hard to find from which house it is used. For example, for those who are experts in nuclear weapons, and they will find maybe from this picture where the nuclear weapon is. But there is no expert in the world which can say from this picture where the cyber weapon is. It can be anywhere. And when we are considering critical information infrastructure protection, so we need to protect our critical information infrastructure, what we need? We need actually to place all these 4 pillars. Actually, we need to use, first, we need to prevent, and we need early warning if we want to protect the systems. Then, we need to detect the attack. If the attack happens, we need to react. And if attack is successful, then we need crisis management. We need to manage the crisis. You know what's happened, I already mentioned, in Estonia. And who is responsible for securing our system networks? All. Not just governmental institution, private sector, who is main owner of the critical infrastructure, but all. And we additionally need actually to ask for help from some friendly countries, as actually Estonia did. They asked for help. They didn't hide information that they were attacked. They actually announced that and they asked for help. And these are actually the measures that should be taken by the governments and nations in order to protect the critical information infrastructure and national security. We need, as Zlatibor already mentioned, effective national cybersecurity strategy, not just a document, not just a framework. It needs to be effective. I know that most of the countries will say, we have national cybersecurity strategy, but it is just a document which was like, mainly it is plagiarism from some other cybersecurity strategy. We need education and training, but as it was mentioned at the very beginning, not just for the IT personnel, for all. Because you remember, I already mentioned that all are responsible for the security. We need more money, big problem here in Southeast Europe. We need institutions or teams which will make response on these attacks or cyber threats. So we need CERTs, SOCs, etc. I know that most of the countries in the Southeast Europe will say that we have CERT, but the problem is that their CERTs, in most of the cases, are not effective. They're just dealing with some piece of paper and they don't do anything. And we need information sharing. Actually, this is also a big problem, but not just in Southeast Europe, everywhere. You know, to tell someone for public sector to share information with private sector, it is a big problem. Even to tell that information sharing is important among public sectors. Believe me, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Interior, they are not sharing information. And we need holistic approach considering entire ecosystem, or we need rules of engagement of ACT during conflict. So ACT personnel doesn't know how to act on different situations. There is need for rules. That's why when we are talking about cybersecurity, we cannot consider just from IT perspective. I'm IT. So don't think that I'm saying that we should involve all the others just because I'm IT, but I'm saying that all should be actually included within some group which will work on this part. And actually, we need new profile of experts which are trained for offensive and defensive cybersecurity. You heard from the very beginning that I'm coming from the military academy, and I have also military rank. And I know that most of you already know that there is a branch in the army which is called infantry. When we are delivering training for them, we are not dividing them in two groups, and we will train just one of them just for offensive and the other group for defensive capabilities. They are all trained for offensive and defensive, to have offensive and defensive knowledge and capabilities. And actually, we need active instead of static defense, or proactive rather than reactive defense. Why? Because we don't want to be forensic experts. We want to catch the enemy before the the exploit. If we actually have evidence that they are in our systems, then we are not talking about security, we are talking about forensics. So we don't want to enter within our perimeter this enemy. Thank you.